Winter is coming.
Might just be the cold.
Winter is coming.
It's cold outside.
You don't know cold.
Winter is coming for him.
It's either me or this cold, and it doesn't appear to be going anywhere.
And winter is coming.
You look cold, boys.
Tis a bit nippy.
Winter is coming. Winter is coming.
That's cold. Winter is coming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cold.
It's cold and it's wet.
Winter is coming.
You're crying because you're cold?
You're a long way from home. And winter is coming.
I imagine you might be rather cold.
And winter is coming.
Oh, that's all right, I'm fine.
You're not. You're freezing.
And winter is here, or almost here. I'm gonna look ridiculous in this fucking cowboy hat. I'm gonna take it off. Sorry, I can't go there. But I can go here. I like this better. Here we go. Yeah! Cincinnati Redlegs. You know, the Cincinnati Redlegs always played the first game of every Major League Baseball season. You can't get much more American than that. Let's bring our guy on here. As soon as he tilts the screen down a little bit. Ah, there he is. All right. It's the man of the hour, Mr. Russ Winter.
Hello.
Hey,
hello.
Russ.
Hi. You know, that little novel, that thing about the Cincinnati Reds is true. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I don't think it happens that way now. Like they go and play a game in Japan, and
For some reason, I remembered that's how the season opened.
yeah, it was always first game of the season. It was always the Cincinnati Reds, and there was no other games that day. Then everything else would follow. So that's kind of an American tradition, and we're here to actually give a little love to America. I gave Russ an assignment, which was, can you come up with 10 things that you love about America? So Russ did, and I did. And I think what we'll do is we'll go back and forth when we get to the list part. And then if you're in chat, if you want to list what you love about America, go ahead, put it in there. And as I go through the chat, I'll star some of your comments. And you know, what we're trying to do today, we're gonna have a glass half full day today.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's 4th of July.
Yeah, and I think it's a reasonable discussion to have because you and I spend so much time deconstructing things, tearing things down, pulling up the carpet, you know, looking at what's under the floorboards, and it's needed and it's not always nice, right? So today's the day to kind of balance that out a little bit. And everything that you put and I put is real. It's authentic. So this
What do you think of my list? Is that okay? Or
I think it leaned really heavy into the sensorial world of food. That's what I think.
I don't know why that is. Yeah.
Well, I kind of get it. I understand why you put some of those things in there.
It's like when I came back, you know, just to kind of preface this, I haven't really been in America for a long time. So I was lived in Hawaii, and I left Hawaii in 2013. I lived 5 years in Hawaii, and that's not really America. That's like a foreign country.
Yeah, Hawaii's a weird hybrid, isn't it?
Right. And so then 2013, I went to Czech Republic. I've been here for 12 years. Most of your listeners know this. And I've been back 3 times. And one time I got sick. It was kind of a disaster, but I also kind of had some experiences that I thought were pretty positive. And three times. So I don't know. I'm kind of like Rip Van Winkle, but I have more distant memories.
Right. So you have memories from an America in some ways that doesn't exist anymore.
Well, I kind of think so. I'm not really qualified to say what the America's really like today because I haven't experienced it firsthand. And people have noted that. And I don't know if they've noted it in a way that you're in a negative way or a positive way, like somehow the country's gotten better. Is that what people are saying? Because it doesn't seem like that way to me. But I don't.
Well,
really
I think a lot of the things that and we have different we have different levels. Although there's kind of a convergence in maybe one area or two. But even the things that like I love about America, some of those things just aren't there anymore either. So these are based on either values or experiences that I've had. And I think some of them are still there, although the way that the system is set up, some of these things are getting harder and harder to pull off. We'll get into it. We'll kick it back and forth. Real quick, I just want to give people an update. So I don't know if you know about this, Russ, but I live in Kerrville, Texas, and we were hit with this mega storm, which started around 12:30 last night, and I watched it. I was up till about 2, and I was watching all the thunder and the lightning and just this heavy, heavy, heavy downpour. So I wake up today and to text of people asking me if I'm okay, like the amount of devastation that has happened with this flood. And I just drove around a little bit, got a cursory view.
Well, I saw some of the clips. I saw some of the clips of it. That Guadalupe River is really flowing. It's enormous.
Well, I drove down there and I got a little video footage. And there's all this shit in the river that's flowing down from these two communities, Hunt and Ingram. And there are a lot of people who have like cabins and stuff on the river, and they're devastated. They're gone. So I hope
people weren't in them because I don't think there's any way to escape that kind of a river flow. That looks
no. And even just like driving down the highway. So I'm driving down the highway, and there's this business. Just like let's call it like an auto glass business. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it's a business. And the flood water had taken a dumpster and had shot it like down the highway. And there was this like a Ford F-150 parked in front of this business, and this dumpster T-boned. You can just see it. It T-boned this F-150. And then it's got all of like these branches and all this other shit around it. And that's just like one isolated event. Like that guy is going to go to his business and he's going to think it's cool. And he's going to go there and he's going to find out that a random dumpster, put a massive dent into his passenger side door in his truck. And right across the highway at this church, they've already set up like a first responder station where people who've been flooded out can go. Like this is amazing.
I take it you're on high ground. I take it.
Yeah, high enough. So my backyard is pretty swampy, which I'm actually okay with. But I'm going to go back out a little bit later and try. I got some footage. I'm going to put some clips together. And I'm going to go out and try to get some more, but
still raining right now.
It's let up a little bit. The ground is way oversaturated, so it has nowhere to go. Was this in downtown Kerrville? Yes, absolutely. Was it the Hayes Park? I think it's Louise Hayes. The park is underwater. We were going to have this big fireworks display. That's done. Like, that's not happening. That whole area where they set up with an amphitheater and a stage, and that's gone. Like, it's just underwater. So 4th of July is just not happening here. Like,
yeah, what a bummer.
It's over. Right. So, yeah, you know, I wouldn't say that I'm shocked, but anytime something like this happens, it's like, you just go, wow, you know, this is, and you know, in a weird way, it's not even random. Like, when I thought about it, in October of 2023 and in April of 2024, Kerrville was the epicenter of 2 major eclipses. Like, the 2 major eclipses, they all came together in Kerrville. And I actually have a graphic that shows this. I'm going to put it up here. So let me see if I can do it.
So that river is just kind of like a fairly small river normally, right? Just kind of a little.
Well, I wouldn't call it small. I wouldn't call it big. It's a river. Like, it is a significant river, but it got more significant. So you see, yeah, I guess you can see this. Can you see this, Russ? Can you see the map?
No, you have my logo up, or my.
All right, hold on. Let me do this again. StreamYard has been funky with screen shares. Can you see the map now?
Yep.
Okay, so this was the October 14th, 2023 eclipse, right? And so this is an annular eclipse, and this was the solar eclipse, the total solar. So the annular has like a ring around it. This is Kerrville right here. Like, this is Kerrville, Texas. So this eclipse comes through in 2023, and then the height of the eclipse in 2024 on April 8th is in Kerrville, right? So this is where the peak of the eclipse was. So it's really interesting that both of these eclipses met here, and then, like, a little over a year later, we have this major flooding and devastation. It's almost like a biblical event, you know. It feels very.
Doesn't the Guadalupe River eventually end up down in Houston or near Houston?
Yeah, but it goes.
They may be looking at floods.
Well, it goes through like weird little, like, sometimes it gets really narrow, and because between here and Houston, they have a lot of, like, they grow a lot of rice. We have a lot of rice paddies. So I think a lot of that water is diverted to grow rice in these, you know, ag areas. So it's not the same width and volume.
Yeah, I don't know. That looked like a lot of water. It really looked bad.
Yeah.
How are they going to divert all that unless they've got some dams downriver? Maybe they do.
They do. Like, there is a dam, but what's going to happen is all this debris is going to ultimately collect down at this dam. And so you're going to have, and I got a clip of some of it. You have massive, like, you know, trees, you've got branches. I saw a dumpster floating down the river. So it's, you know, this is up. So the worst area for all of this is an area called Hunt, which is kind of the next town over. I'm right at the edge of Kerrville, in a town called Ingram. So Hunt, there's a lot of wealthy people that have these, like, getaway cabins on the Guadalupe River in Hunt. And those cabins are, I'm pretty sure, are gone. So I hope, you know, and getting insurance for places like that.
The floodplain issues.
Yeah. So
probably will happen is they won't let it be redeveloped. That's what tends to happen. That they'll delineate a floodplain and not let anything be developed there. And I don't know how wide.
Well, it'll be interesting, right? Like, there are heirs like there's a woman who lives out in Hunt who's an heir to like the Mexican Coke fortune, right? So like her parents were the distributors of, or somebody in her family was like the distributor of Mexican Coke. So she has a ton of money, right? And I would assume that if she wanted to rebuild, she probably could. So it's not your average kind of, white trash, got a double wide down by the river community. These are people who have lots of money. So.
Yeah, well, there's laws. There's floodplain laws.
There are, but you have to see those areas are unincorporated too, right? That's another part. Like who's gonna do that? So yeah, we'll see. I got a friend, and we were actually supposed to spend some time with them on Saturday because they actually have a cabin in Hunt, and we were going to go hang out down by the river. They're not coming out now, so I got to go out there and see what might have happened to their place. But yeah, man, this is kind of heavy. And again, it's the epicenter of these two eclipses, and it feels almost Old Testamently sort of Noah-like in some ways. So, yeah. How you doing, Russ? What's going on in your 4th of July world?
Well, kind of in my nothing happens here 4th of July, but I'll just get reports from the family. I think they're going to go to Rockville, have a local. I was talking about maybe going to Washington, D.C., and I said, nah, I don't go down there. That was my advice. So
that's probably good advice.
Yeah. So getting lots of pool activity in. I'm kind of in my active part of the year. You recall that last year.
Yeah, you're looking good. I got to say, you got some color in your face. Looks like you're a little fit there. So that's good.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting stronger. It's very weird, though. I have this, my bad knee that I injured, my right leg. I'm exercising these muscles equally. Maybe somebody in the audience can give me an idea what's going on here. So equal exercise on both legs in the water, moving, kicking, a little bit of swimming. I kind of get a snorkel gear on and kind of go underwater. And I'll be down to my right leg. It's getting kind of buff. You can see the new muscles. You see new layers of muscles building up. But then my bad leg is still kind of atrophied. It looks visibly different.
What's the bad leg?
My left leg.
Well, some would say that that's your feminine side.
Well, the leg the injury was actually a ruptured quad tendon that attaches to the knee.
Joan, who knows a few things about this, says it could be nerve damage.
Yeah. Yep. That makes sense. I think they actually damaged the nerve in the surgery.
Yeah. So I don't think it's irreparable, but you might have to do some extra.
So if the nerve is damaged, then that kind of somehow prevents the muscle from.
You may want to look at something like acupuncture to maybe fire up those meridians. That might be an interesting thing to do. But there's ways that you can work with nerve damage. Yeah, I think there is. If anybody has some suggestions in chat, DMSO between workouts. Joe says DMSO is disodium methylene oxide. The methylene, yeah, it's like they used to use it for industrial use, but it actually works really well, like intra kind of cellular compound rub. So if you have like intense soreness, DMSO can get really so it gets between the subcutaneous layers of your flesh and actually gets into your muscles.
Well, I don't want to end up looking like a crab,
Well, I don't think you will. But if you take enough DMSO, you might smell like one. So
yeah, somebody said vitamin B. I use a lot of that.
Yeah. Magnesium at the right times, according to Cuddle Winged Dragon.
Yeah, I use that.
Yeah. Well, you're good. You're good.
I don't think I'm making too many mistakes, but I think it's just nerve damage. I probably need to go into physical therapy and figure some things out again.
Burdock root with helps with blood issues. Cayenne is good. Destiny Perez has a very interesting comment. This is a good one. Make sure your hips are in alignment.
Yeah, that's big. That's really hard because you start walking funny. Yeah, and you kind of start pronating out with the knee, particularly when you're a bad knee. So it starts going out and starts. It actually causes osteoporosis. So I have osteoporosis in my left knee. I'll just add that. That's already developed.
Liddy Lou, I like this one too. Electrical stem and red light therapy. I like both of those. The electrical stem stuff is really interesting.
Okay, talk to me about red light therapy for eye recovery, for sight recovery. Does that work?
They have eye patches. Like they have these red light eye patches, and you close your eyes, and so the red light through these eye patches actually will work with your ocular nerves. So yeah, so red light, we got a lot of red light that we tap into here, and it's actually really, really good. So but only certain frequencies for the eyes. Joan is the queen of red light. So there you go.
Wow, everybody's very knowledgeable about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this group here, man, they are switched on with health.
That's kind of why I pursued this a little bit. I don't want to make it all about me, but I am trying to pick up a few things about what the hell's going on. I don't really know who else to ask.
I'll send you a list of stuff, DM, and then you can go put it together and research on your downtime. How's that sound?
Okay.
All right. Are you ready to get into our love affair of America, Russ?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are 10 things that Russ and I love about America. So what I thought we could do is we could alternate, and then we could talk about each one's.
Yeah, and before you go, let me make a little bit of a disclaimer because my 10 things are positive. I'm not dwelling on the negative. It's going to be half glass full. But the way I look at America, for me, is I gave you this analogy. The analogy would be, and this is not my situation at all. My offspring is great, but if I had, let's say you had a daughter that had real potential, who fell in with a bad crowd of criminals and took a wrong self-destructive path.
You mean like a black gangbanger or something like that?
Well, something like that. I guess you could use your imagination. It just could be a bunch of bad people, and when you're growing up, you got to, it's really important that you be around good people when you grow up. I think I was fortunate that way. And so while I can acknowledge this daughter's beauty and her other qualities, I can't overlook the realities. And so I just write here, she's always welcome back and can approach me, but I'm not holding my breath. That's how I kind of see America.
Well, there's a chance that maybe the daughter will find Jesus one day. And something like that. I used to know this guy growing up. He was one of my friends. And German, very German. Last name was Pretzer, right? That's a German name, if I'm not mistaken. And he was very Germanic.
Somebody's saying I was acting like I'm not qualified to be an American. I'm fucking 74 years old. I lived in the United States for 60 years, so don't start in on that.
Hey, Russ he's still an American citizen. He hasn't given up his citizenship. And I think that here, let me just say that Russ is tied to the American story through his father in a way that it's like a fundamental part of America. Russ's father.
Not only that, I mean, I have seven generation lines in about everywhere, all over the place.
Yeah.
Some of these people came in the 1600s.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you look. I'm not going to discount your right to weigh in on the 10 things you like about America. So you have a right to say that. And yeah, and even if there were things that you liked about America that I didn't like, you still have a right to say that.
Yeah, but there's a tendency going on in the country to sort of disqualify people that are critical of America as being un-American. There's a lot of that going on out there. It's really a bad attitude.
That's really that we could do a whole show on that.
Yeah. Okay, but anyway, I'm sorry. I spotted something in the comments.
Yeah.
As you always said,
let's just all hold hands today and have a little kumbaya. And let's quietly but joyously celebrate what we can, because sometimes it's a hard thing to do. Like there are people within a 10-mile radius of me today that they don't have a lot to celebrate about. So let's keep that in mind and do our best here. All right, you ready to go?
Yep.
Okay, so that's okay. So this is Russ's first thing that he loves about America right here. America is boundless and open west of the Mississippi. So, Russ, why don't you go ahead and tell us why you like this boundless?
Well, this is where I grew up. I'm a Westerner. I started in Kansas, eventually ended up in the Pacific Northwest for a long time. And this has always made a big impression with me. I like to go out and look at the horizons. I can remember being in camp in Colorado when I was a kid and going up into the Rockies and looking out at the plains, into the flat plains in the distance. It's very impressive, very impressive. And
very, very impressive. Like not a lot of countries have this topography.
No. You probably have to go to Central Asia or someplace.
Yeah, but even then, like in Central Asia, I've seen a lot of footage. Some of those areas are really rocky and barren in places. Others are a little more verdant, right? But you don't get this sense of the kind of the rolling prairie, this like sea of green, and then these expansive skies and mountains and buttes in the distance. It's kind of awe-inspiring in a lot of ways.
Very good for the soul. I'm convinced of that. And then somebody mentioned big sky country, same concept.
Yeah. So I think that this is something that when you're out there, you can kind of feel the spirit of America in some ways. Like it's boundless. The opportunity is boundless, right? Again, we're rhapsodizing a little bit here, but the opportunity is boundless. There's plenty of like verdant and rich land to either grow or build on, and the mountains and the buttes are like these structures that are kind of inspiring. Right? Like they're vertical and there's like a verticality to America, whether it's rising to the top and I feel like this kind of encapsulates a lot of ways the American spirit.
Well, the plains, you also, you can go out in the plains and you can dig into the soil. Soil is, of course, amazing. Black soil.
Right. Like that's the growing part.
And then you have the arrowheads that I used to go up on the Flint Hills and find arrowheads.
Yeah,
all the time. Very neat childhood activities.
That's cool. That's very American. It's very kind of like hot finish in some ways, looking for arrowheads. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of typifies the spirit of America. Open, free, expansive, the potential to grow, and the views and the air and the land, I think, inspire them. So I think this is a great choice. Really great choice.
All right, let's see what you got, Robert.
All right, mine. I start off a lot more. How would I say this? Material. But I start at the material level and I work up. Okay. So this
isn't a competition.
No.
Muscle cars.
Muscle cars. I fucking love muscle cars.
Oh, cool.
Because they're American. Like, there's no other country that built shit like this. And that's not to say that an Audi or a BMW or a Volvo or Mercedes or even like, Japanese. I had a 280ZX anniversary model. It was really cool. Those are good cars, but they're not muscle cars. These are like, they scream America. They're big, they're fast, they're loud.
I had when I was in my 20s, and I probably should never have gotten this car because I piled up a bunch of tickets.
Right.
Probably would have kind of lucky I even survived it driving this car. I had a Ford Mustang Turbo.
Oh, yeah.
And I would take it up over the Cascade Mountains on I-90.
Yep.
And it would just had this little sizzling sound.
Yep.
And it would just fly by everybody. I mean, I was climbing up in altitude, and it actually did better climbing up into altitude than it did on the sea level.
Interesting.
So I was driving this car around Central Washington a lot, taking corners, and it would just hug the corners. It was a great car. It was just very stable on the road and fast and very, very quick. Would you consider that a muscle car?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the only other car that I might include in this that's not in this, well, I'd include two other cars. I would include the Trans Am and the GTO, which are not here. But these four, I think, are pretty representative. You got the classic, Shelby-inspired Mustang, the Camaro, badass car. And then you have your Dodge product over here. You've got the Charger and you have the Challenger.
Oh yeah, highly loaded. That's the Steve McQueen car.
The Steve McQueen car is the green Mustang GT.
Right, but the Charger was the chase car. The gangsters that he chased. Remember those?
Oh yeah. And what's really weird about that chase scene is that there are two guys in the car, right? And both of those guys in the car are both stunt drivers. The guy in the passenger seat was Kerry Lofton, who was considered to be the stunt driver. He's not even driving the car.
Great character actors. I mean, great for that role.
Tarantino did a breakdown on Bullet. And it's a really, really great breakdown of Bullet. And it's what sets Steve McQueen apart from all these other actors in his day. Like, Steve McQueen doesn't really talk a lot in Bullet. Right? He doesn't say a hell of a lot.
He's just cool. He's just cool all the time.
He was totally cool. And the thing that McQueen wanted to do is, like, he was becoming very, like, McQueen was starting to get into, like, the hippie world. Like, he was starting to get into, like, wearing beads and shit like that, right? So he didn't want to do a movie that would turn off the hippie audience or the young audience. So what he did is he kind of insisted that they shoot this movie in San Francisco. And there's a scene in the movie where he's having dinner at a jazz club. And there's no dialogue. They're just hanging out. They're eating. He's with his girlfriend, who is played by Jacqueline Bisset. Beautiful, right? And you have this, like, jazz trio in the background. And it's like he's a cop with a life, right? And he's kind of invested in not, having to be a hardcore cop all the time. And it really works. Like, it makes him even more cool that he has a life outside of being this hard-nosed, procedural detective. So he had really good instincts about how to frame that character.
Yeah, muscle car. Okay, right. Good choice. I don't care if it's material or printing.
No other country has a freaking muscle car the way that America does. All right, so let's go to Russ for number 2 here on his list. This is where Russ can expound on some of his tales.
So it's not up. You got there you go. Oh, wow. You put the map on there. I think I used to have that puzzle. That's a puzzle. That's an American puzzle that I had as a kid.
How about that? Score.
You're gonna have to date that. See where that came from. I had that. Oh, you got Yellowstone. I've been there. The St. Louis. What do you call St. Louis?
The Arch.
Yeah.
Right.
We're by the stadium. Of course, you got the baseball stadiums, which we both love.
Yeah.
But I get into baseball later. And
so I went to Kansas City a couple of weeks ago, and I went to go see a game at Ewing Kauffman, which I'd never been to before. Great stadium. And I gotta say, man, I loved the people of Kansas City. They were really, really cool. I loved them.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah, super, super nice. All American. Like they were so nice and all American and Midwesty. It was almost a cliche. So
yeah. So my experience in that area, of course, Kansas is where my dad finished out his life. Mom and dad finished out their lives, and I went back to my dad's funeral. But that was a little different. I mean, those are all people that love Tex that came to that funeral. It was a very large group of people. And everybody was so nice, and a lot of my old people that I grew up with showed up. And it really gave me a feeling of being an American.
Yeah.
But it might not be quite realistic. It might not really be a realistic experience, but it was a real experience.
I think there's something about the Midwest that retains that memory, whether it's familial, generational, genetic. I can feel it. I can feel it when I was there. So I would assume that even though it happened at a particular time, and it's because your father was a very popular man, I assume that some of that is still there. And that would be my take. So let's get 3 places from you that you visited that you might have some interesting stories about. So
I don't know so much have interesting stories, but I kind of went to the Grand Canyon late. So when did you go to Grand Canyon?
I got a story about the Grand Canyon.
Okay, fly with it.
Okay. So when I was 4 years old, my parents took me to the Grand Canyon. And I remember this. I have this memory burned in my brain. It's like it was yesterday. And so we go to the Grand Canyon, we pull into the parking lot of the Overlook, right? And it's really windy and cold. It's probably some like late fall day or something like that, like late fall. It's windy and cold. And so my parents, being the good parents that they were, zipped me up in one of these jackets that you can't even move in, right? Like they zipped me up in one of those. And so then once they get me, they're going to get their jackets on and zip up. So while they're doing that, I scurry on over to the edge of the parking lot, and the fence between the parking lot and the rim of the canyon, maybe about, a foot, 2 feet high. So I climb it. I climb the fence.
Not childproof at all, huh?
So I climb the fence, and I'm literally standing on the edge of the rim of the Grand Canyon, looking down into it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, what is going on down there? Man, that's really deep. Right? And then all of a sudden, I felt these hands just grab me and lift me up over the fence. It was my father.
I got a similar story. So we'll swing back to the East Coast.
Okay. All right.
And I've only been in New York City one time. I think maybe twice when I was young.
Yeah.
Once when I was like about 8 or 7.
Yep.
And once when I was about 12. That's the only time I've ever been in New York City. So I have a really old view of New York City. Just the kind of the YouTube video type stuff, right?
New York City was a dark place, man. It was dark, and there was a lot of lot of old tenements, and like it got gussied up.
Well, I was down in the Rockefeller Center area, which I remember vividly.
Yeah.
I got separated. My younger brother and I was like 7 or 8, and he was like 3 or 4. Got separated from my mom. I don't know what my dad was doing. My dad was always off doing something on his own. That's what can I say. Anyway, we got kind of separated.
As long as it wasn't Times Square, it's okay.
Yeah, right. He's probably doing something with basketball, probably meeting some coach. And so we got lost and separated from my mom, but we just started walking. We started walking down the street, and I didn't know, I'm a kid from Kansas. I had no idea how to navigate this place.
Right.
Walking down the street, we're lost. And finally, I ran into a cop, and I figured, well, I know enough to ask this cop. I said, officer, we're lost, and he asked me, well, where did you come from? Where were you with your mom last? And I said, well, that big statue, that's sort of that weird lady. I forget what it looked like. There's a statue at Rockefeller Center,
right?
And I forget how he described it, but he figured it out what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And so he took us back down there, and he was kind of looking around to see if my mom was around. And finally, it was kind of weird how he handled it. He just said, why don't you sit right there, the last place you saw your mom, just sit right there and don't move. And he walked off.
Well,
this is like 1959, so
it must have worked. It must have worked.
It's just it was a different era, 1959. Mom will come and find you, and she did.
He had good instincts. Probably not the first time it happened, but I got a similar story with missing kid in New York City. You want to hear it?
Mm-hmm.
So I was with my son. I think he was around 10. He might have been 10. And we went to the Museum of Natural Arts and Sciences, right? But we had gotten off at an earlier stop, and we got some pizza. It was his first New York pizza. And I had been to like Modell's Sporting Goods the day before, and I bought him a Tim Tebow Jets jersey because it was on sale. Right. And so I was like, hey, wear this Tebow jersey when we get into town. So we get back on the subway, and we get off at the stop for the Museum of Natural History and Science. And it is a fucking stampede, right? A total stampede. And I get off, and the door shuts, and I'm looking around, and my kid isn't there. And I'm like, holy shit, he's still on the fucking subway, right? And it is now headed north. So in order to get to the station agent, you have to basically go into the Natural Museum of History and Science, exit, come out at the street level. And that's what I did. And I ran. I hadn't run that fast in years. So I got to the station agent. I said, hey, my kid was on that last train, and he's headed north. Can you relay that to the train? He's wearing a Tim Tebow jersey. And she's doing this, and all of a sudden I get this sense he's okay. I get this sense that he's okay. And about a minute later, he comes walking through the turnstile with this couple, and she was pregnant, okay? And they saw what had happened, and they said, we're going to get you back on the train to your last stop. And so they literally brought him back to where he needed to be.
Wow.
Yeah. And
well, that's okay. So now we're talking about good things about America.
Things about America, right? And
that's a good example.
Look, and so I'm gonna go one layer further. Okay. I know there are times where we can be critical of Israel, and at times what we would call, I would say, unenlightened Jewish perspectives, right? We've done that. I can tell you right now, that those two people that helped my son were Jewish. Right. And it was
a lot of them in New York.
Yeah. And so they had enough compassion and kindness to bring him back. And I was incredibly thankful. And he was very cool until we got off of the subway area and went into the museum, and he started to bawl. He was so scared. Right. And then I got a call from guess who? His mother. Because he didn't know my number, but he knew her number.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. And I get this call. What the hell is going on back there? It's okay. It's okay. We got it covered.
Oh.
Just a
close call. Don't worry about
just
it.
Just a little glitch, We're good here.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see your number 2.
Okay. Bring it up here.
Because we could tell stories all day based on this.
It's okay. This is part of it. This is part of the exercise, right? All right. My number 2 is, let me see.
Nomadic spirit. Yeah.
The American nomadic spirit. I love this about America. I love this graphic, this image. These two guys, they're walking down the road, right? This dirt road. And then you've got this sign on the road. Next time, try the train, relax. And, whether it's, people moving westward, the Oklahoma rush, right? Whatever that, or you've got, again, people who are kind of like borderline sort of hobo people, which is very nomadic. You have Jack Kerouac on the road, Easy Rider. There's something about this nomadic spirit of Americans. Like right now, people have van life. They have vans. They're living in their vans.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And I don't know any other country that really has this.
Well, especially the early history of America is definitely that way. I mean, the settlement of the West, the Oregon Trail. I've always been fascinated with the whole Oregon Trail story.
Right. Yeah.
I've gone on some road trips and tried to follow the Oregon Trail out of Kansas up in Nebraska out to the
Flatland. That's what I'm talking about, right? You've got a little of that too. In fact, your nomadic spirit led you all the way to Prague. I mean, if you really want to extend it out.
Yeah, you can do nomadic spirit on your baseball tours, on your Civil War battlefield tours.
Yeah, but there's also, in some cases, a rejection of 9-to-5 culture, L7 living, where people are just. I remember one time I went to Portland years ago, and there was a certain character that you would see on the streets of Portland. Now, I'm not rhapsodizing this or romanticizing it, but it was like drifter culture, right? Where you could go to a town and you could rent a room for $45 a month somewhere. Like that was not uncommon in America. Or there were boarding houses that you could rent a room in. And you just don't see that anymore. And part of that setup was also very much connected to being nomadic. And of course, you have the whole hobo side of things as well. And I feel like I have some of that in my gene pool. So I really like it. It's it's like this sort of open range, free spirit.
Camping out.
Yeah, I mean, camping out is camping. Because you wind up going back home at some point. These are people who are not always attached to a certain place, right? They're kind of on the move. And I feel like that's very much you don't have that in Europe. In Europe, things tend to be if you're French, you generally stay in France, right? And if you're in the north of France, you're well, let me go check out the south of France and Brittany. It's just, you don't have that. And it gets back to your first slide about, the open plains and the prairie and the sky. Like it just
part of the advantage of America is it's, or at least it was, one language, English. Everybody spoke.
Yeah.
Europe's not that way. I mean, you got a lot of languages here. I just don't see how.
Right. Exactly, and that's part of it too. Like you could go anywhere in America and still have a conversation with people that know what "Can I get a cup of coffee" means. So I love the American nomadic spirit. All right, let's go. Your next one, Russ.
So this is funny because this gets back to what you were talking about before.
Overportioned meals. I was so hypnotized by the meal I couldn't even write a correct fucking sentence.
Overportioned meals only in U.S. restaurants. You don't get these meals here.
Look at that, Russ. Would you like to chat out on that?
I don't know. I mean, my appetite's kind of suppressed a little bit, but there have been times. Especially when I traveled back to America the last 3 times, I was constantly dragging my son out for meals like this, and I would pile it all down. I think I had that very meal.
To me, I gotta say, this actually looks really fucking good.
It's good. It is what it is. I consider it positive. I have no problem with it. I'm perfectly fine with it. You know, I went to IHOP with my son and pigged out. Love those kind of restaurants, overproportioned meals.
Like the Cheesecake Factory. Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah. A big plate of high fructose corn syrup.
Like, I don't think I would eat this, but I'm telling you, it looks good. It looks great.
It is what it is.
Back in the day, I would have crushed this meal. Totally crushed it. Do you know where you can find this meal?
Well, all kinds of American restaurants.
No, there's a place where I actually pulled this picture from. You can get this meal at Dolly Parton's amusement park. This is what they serve at Dollywood.
Yeah. Quintessential American meal.
There it is right there. Fit for a country king.
Now, I would point out the iced tea over there. Now, the iced tea, I should have really maybe put that on my list, but we can mention it now because I love iced tea. And here I've trained people to make this kind of iced tea.
You should have an iced tea business.
Yeah. I used to start out. I mean, I have a few restaurants I go to regularly. They know exactly what I'm talking about and prepared for me. You know, just take some brown tea or I use the black tea.
Iced tea is an American thing.
Yeah. And at first I didn't know what the hell I was even talking about. Now they do, but only because an American introduced it to them.
I remember the first time I had iced tea. I was like, what is this? And it was, it had sugar and lemon in it. And, you don't want it
out of a can. You want real black tea and ice and no sugar. Don't throw anything.
Well, this is when I'm 7 years old. Sugar was good. And it was the sweet, it was the tannin of the tea, and it was the bitterness of the lemon. Like, I got it. It's like, man, this is really fucking good. So I actually remember, I know exactly where I was when I had that first glass.
Yeah, underestimated drink. Yep.
I was at Icy Callahan's house in Millbrae, California, my first glass of iced tea. So Russ, I'll tell you, along these lines, even though it's like a German word, I love Hofbrau's, right? Where you take your, Golden Corral is like the metastasized version of the Hofbrau. But I used to go to this place called the Hofbrau in Redwood City. And you had all these like choices. You can get carved ham, you can get roasted chicken, you get salads. I love that shit. It's basically like a buffet, but you can do it any way you want, right?
Have you ever been to a Brazilian churrascaria?
I have, and I've had really good experiences, and I've had other experiences where it's like, okay, if I do this again, I'm only getting beef or lamb. I'm not getting any of their fucking sausage. I'm not getting any of their chicken.
Yeah.
But I'm just going beef, lamb, and the salads. I remember the first time I went to one, it blew my mind. It was so good.
Right. They warm me up with the salads, and then you get full. Yes. But you're right. If you go to a churrascaria, because meat is expensive, it's hard to get meat. You're not going to have too many good opportunities.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
Yeah. So, skip the sausage, skip the chicken, just go beef, lamb, and the caipirinha, I think, is one of the greatest drinks of all time. And that, of course, that's where you get it. It's at these Brazilian restaurants. Okay, you have any more love for American over-portioned cuisine, Russ?
That's good. I think that pretty much explains it. The guy's got a cup of coffee there, too. Jeez.
Yeah, you need that coffee. Hey, you need that coffee with the apple pie, Russ.
Oh, the other thing is endless iced teas and endless drinks. They don't do that in Europe.
See, that's America. We're gonna give it to you.
Still going? Is that still going on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We're gonna give it to you again, and again. That's America. All right. So here's my. Come on, get out of there. Hold on. All right, here we go. Right here. This is my number 3. Do you see it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the inventive American spirit. Right?
Yeah, that's pretty undeniable. That part's pretty undeniable.
You got Steve Jobs, you got Steve Wozniak, the Brewers, right? And they're basically changing the world, right? And, it's not just like these two guys, but they're dudes with their garages, and they get their cars in there and they mod them, right? And they do all this shit. Like, America is really good at tinkering and being inventive. Like Thomas Massey, he's the same. He's same kind of spirit. Like, he decides to build his house out of just the wood and the stone on his property, uses no nails, buys a damaged Tesla just so he can use the Tesla battery to charge his house with solar. Like, this is one of the things I really love about America. If there's a problem, we can fix it. We can innovate. And I think this is one of the things where AI and people like Peter Thiel and Palmer Luckey and Alex Karp, they want to centralize technology. They don't want any more Steve Jobses or Steve Wozniaks. They don't want people to be inventive and innovate on their own. And I think this is a real shame and a real crime. So this is where I'm weighing in. The inventive American spirit.
Is undeniable. I can't counterpoint you on this at all.
Yeah. So, all right, let's go to number 4 for you. Let's see what we got here. What's this? Yeah, we did that one. All right.
I hope it's not food again.
Huh. You should know better than that, Russ. Russ loves that Chicago-style deep dish pizza, which is rare in Europe.
Yeah, that was introduced to me by Jerry Krause.
So for people who don't know who Jerry Krause is, he was the general manager of not only the Chicago Bulls, but the Chicago White Sox, and was partners with Jerry Reinsdorf in both of those teams, and the man who hired Russ's father. So I
rolled into Chicago for the first time, and I'd actually met Jerry Krause when my dad was at Northwestern, because they used to kind of hang out together. And so when I first went into Chicago, Jerry Krause constantly liked to hang out with my dad. And he says, "Hey, you guys, you want to go? Have you guys really had really good deep dish pizza?" and I forget the name of the restaurant in Chicago, but he took us there, and he was exactly right. And this is kind of what it looked like. But the thing is about the one that they had, they would pull it out, they would cut it and pull it up, and all the cheese would drip off of it.
Yeah, there's something about the visual of like drippy, melty cheese that just gets
they would drop it on the plate, and then you would drop the slice onto the plate and kind of mix it in with the gooey. It was mozzarella. It wasn't Parmesan, or maybe they put Parmesan on top of it too.
They do put it on top, but there's the thick layer of mozzarella.
Yeah, you can't find this here.
So you need to open a deep dish iced tea restaurant.
I don't think people tell me it wouldn't fly here.
Really?
This is American.
Well, it's certainly Chicago. I mean, and this is where, like, this is not pizza from New York. This is very different kind of pizza.
If I opened a deep dish pizza place with iced tea,
that's what I'm talking about.
I would go out of business.
Or maybe you should just bottle the iced tea. That's what I'm thinking.
No. That's not how you drink iced tea.
Yeah, well,
you steep it and make it very natural. The real teas.
Well, you can still do that. You just bottle it. That's all. There's no
Ponjo's Pizza. So what do we got around the country? Ponjo's Pizza in Houston. Never been there. Tub of Nestea from Price Club. What are we getting? What are we getting in comments? I want to see kind of some of the stuff people are coming up with on this.
Can you see the comments?
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm not a fan of the deep dish pizza.
Okay.
I understand the appeal, but I have an issue with lots of tomato. And
yeah, it's hard on the stomach.
You're not gonna solve that with a deep dish pizza.
No, I can't eat this kind of stuff in the evening at all anymore.
But I understand the appeal. I totally get it. Right? It's like pizza meets comfort food. Like that's the genius of this style of pizza.
Somebody says bottling tea is like frozen pizza in a box. I agree with that statement.
Okay, let's go to. Do you have any more insights into deep dish pizzas, Russ?
No, it's another one of those is what it is.
Okay, so I'm going with. This is something that we both kind of touch on. So the thing that we both sort of have in common is sort of grab this thing. Oh, come on. Sometimes grabbing images is a pain in the fucking ass on my computer. Hold on. Stop. Just stop. All right, here we go.
Here's somebody says crawfish, all you can eat. Oh, yes. Yes. There's a crawfish place in Portland.
We got plenty of them around here, crawfish boil places.
Yep.
All right. So this is my number 4. The spirit of goodwill and generosity, which is, I think, very distinctly American. Now, you'll find this in other countries around the world. There are some good people, very cunning people. I watch YouTube videos where guys are traveling in Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and they will invite people into their homes, strangers, for tea. And they'll bring out these really big spreads. So it's not like Americans have some sort of patent on, hospitality and goodwill.
Well, the trips I've taken back, when I was sick, I was really treated well by the hospital personnel. I was really treated well on some flight difficulties I was having at the airport. They didn't have to be that way with me. But part of it because I just think that they could see I was kind of sick and elderly, at least at that point.
Right. Yeah.
And then the staff on the planes and just everybody I ran into in the United States on my 3 trips back has always been, my father's funeral. That might be a little biased. The other 2 trips, which is in the Washington, D.C. area, where I could have easily run into a bunch of ne'er-do-wells easily.
Right.
And I didn't. I just didn't. It didn't happen. The experience was positive. And part of it is this.
Yeah. So I chose this with a particular story in mind. And it was probably around like 1993 or 94. I was living in Oakland, and I didn't have a lot of money at that time. And I didn't have the best like planning habits either. So I ran out of gas on the freeway. Highway 24 headed towards Walnut Creek, way before the tunnel. So there I am on the freeway, and it was like early evening. And this car pulls over, and it's kind of an old ratty car. It pulls over to pick me up, and I look inside, and it's this old black couple. And they let me in. They say, "How you doing? Where do you want to go?" I said, "There's a gas station, like off this exit, and if you could take me there, that'd be really great." And they did. Right? They didn't have to pull over.
Well, the thing is, there's also some horror stories kind of like this too, though.
Of course there are, but that was not my experience.
No, I know. You just got to go. You got to go with your experience. But we're still alive. That's the thing.
Yeah. No, but here's the other part that's weird though. So I go to the gas station, and I get my gas. And I hate to do the profile thing, but it's a profile thing. And there are these two, I would say, young-ish black dudes, like maybe 19, 20. And one of them has a freaking golf club with him. Like, what the fuck are you doing with a golf club? Like in Oakland at this gas station. Right. And I'm like, I need to really have some situational awareness here. Right? Well,
just don't piss them off.
I could have this metal putter up inside my cranium, So it was cool. It was fine. But to your point, like, I don't know, maybe I'm somebody else. Maybe there's somebody else. Maybe that story doesn't really work out the way it's supposed to, right? And it's not the people that pick me up, but it's the people that are there in that particular neighborhood who may have a certain agenda, right? But at the end of the day, I was really happy that they did, and I'll always remember them for doing that. All right, let's go to your number 5.
Please no more food. Come on, don't embarrass me. Did I put more food down?
No, this one is more poetic, Russ.
Okay.
So this is. I think we're getting a look into Russ's psyche here. There you go.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I put this on a big flood day in Texas, though. So I didn't. This was done yesterday, by the way.
Yeah.
So I didn't know about these floods.
But again, this is typically American. These thunderstorms and lightning strikes, and you can smell the ozone in the air, like before it all happened.
Yeah, it's actually negative ions.
Negative ions, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which my uncle used to swear was the key to good health.
Yeah, he's right. He's absolutely right. The positive ones are filled with all the free radicals. So this is the poetic side of Russ.
And these are common all over the United States, not just in the plains. It's an American phenomena, and you don't get that too much. I mean, I was in one good storm here that was memorable that I would put in the standards of American storms, but they never come back. I keep waiting. Here it is, it's summertime. I keep waiting for a good thunderstorm and lightning. It just never happens.
Well, we didn't get a lot of thunder and lightning in California. Occasionally. It was very rare. Very, very rare. When it did happen, people got really excited.
For the Pacific Northwest, you got it.
Yeah, but California is different. Bay Area, Northern California, we didn't get a lot of it. Yeah, I mean, Pacific Northwest, we get some of this. But again, it's kind of inspiring, and sort of edgy too in its own way. Because you never know, one of those thunderbolts may just reach out and zap you, right? Never know.
You got to kind of stay under the porch, and that ties into America too. Porches.
They don't. Do you think they have porches in Portugal?
I don't think so. They
sure don't have Portugal. Get a porch.
They sure don't have them here. They have balconies here.
Yes, they don't have a lot of balconies here. Interesting. Do you have much more to say about your poetic relationship with thunderstorms and lightning?
No, that's good. I think it is what it is.
So I'm getting like the thing that you love about America, these very visceral things, right? Food, the moody weather, the open plains. The viscerality.
That's what comes to mind first.
Yeah, I like it. I dig it. All right, so
mostly because I'm not exposed to it anymore.
All right, so this is my number 5. America is the incubator for adrenaline junkies.
Yeah, it's can be good or bad. I had to kind of control this kind of behavior in my son because this is kind of what he was like. Too much of a risk taker.
It's I'm telling you, man, it's like we have this gene. Although there are some people in Europe that get pretty freaky, jumping off these mountains with these bat suits and shit. Right?
Oh my God, yeah.
And some of the parkour stuff, like that's a little adrenaline. Like, but this is a picture of Tony Alva, and Tony Alva revolutionized skateboarding. And these were the Dogtown crew, and they had a summer in California where there was a drought, so all these pools got dried up, and they discovered that they could basically get into these pools and do things with skateboards that had never been done before. You also have these wheels.
Oh, it's like the scene. Okay, it's like the scene in Breaking Bad where they're using his pool after this place had been kind of abandoned.
Well, sort of. But the polyurethane wheels completely changed skateboarding. They got rid of those crappy clay wheels, the crappy like metal. When the polyurethane wheels came in, and then they started to have these wide trucks, like you could just do so much more with a skateboard. And so these guys, the Z Boys, what they're called, they revolutionized this. In fact, they got so good at it that they would take in pumps to remove like standing water from some of these pools, right? And so they fuck up the pools and everything. But America has this love affair with adrenaline, and I dig it, right? And it's again.
Yeah, it's kind of a kickback to the lightning and thunderstrikes, a little bit of that too.
Yeah, and out of the adrenaline, like Tony Alva became a fucking multimillionaire. By the time Tony was 25, he was a multimillionaire. He had his own skateboard brand, his own line of skateboard clothing, right? And then eventually, Tony Hawk jumps on this, and he's like the next generation with the Bones Brigade. And Tony Hawk just dominates skating. He does video games.
You could add racing to this too.
Well, you can add racing, and we're going to kind of go there a little bit with my next choice. But you got another one, so let's bring up your next one.
I like your picks, Robert. They're good.
Here we go. Now I can totally relate to this one. I think what you meant to say here was water slide parks.
Yes.
And
correct.
roller coasters. Okay. So I chose this image for a reason because it's close to the ocean. But tell us why you like water slide parks and roller coasters.
It's kind of being a dad in a lot of ways, a father.
Yeah.
Because we kind of enjoyed these activities.
Yeah.
We went to quite a, some of the big ones, Six Flags Over Texas, the one up in the Chicago area.
Right.
Just a lot of fun, and it's addictive because you can get on there. I don't think I could do it now because I just probably have a little too much blood pressure issues, but you can just do it over and over again addictively, and we would.
Those are really good memories, right? Taking your children to amusement parks and like when you were young, did Tex take you to amusement parks?
He was terrible.
So you missed out on that?
Yep, I did. He was not that good. He wasn't in tune with stuff like this. But I kind of made up for it with my own son.
Right. Right. So you
took me wrong. My dad exposed me to a lot of stuff, but not this.
But this was not his thing.
No.
So you took your son to the modern amusement parks, the big ones, the mega parks.
Yeah, which were all over the place in the 70s and 80s. I guess the one down in Houston is closed, so they're closing a lot of these, aren't they?
They're closing a lot of these. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is old America from the era that I'm from.
So when I was a kid, when I was young,
Rip Van Winkle America, let's call it that.
Well, so when I was young, my father took me to both Coney Island and Asbury Park.
Yeah, I've been to Coney Island. Okay, my dad did take me to Coney Island.
Okay, there you go. That's classic. So this is Santa Cruz. This is the boardwalk. I've been on this roller coaster so many times.
Yeah, I've never seen this one. This is cool.
I love this roller coaster. I love
How about the one in Vegas in the what is it? What's the hotel?
Is it the Omni or Horizon or whatever it is, or
MGM something?
Yeah, I've been on.
Oh no, the New York.
I haven't been on the New York one. I've been on the other one where you go outside.
Well, that one's up there. You're just up there right on top of this hotel. Yeah. It's just unbelievable.
I've been on a lot of roller coasters. This is my favorite. It's my favorite. You start off and you go, you hit almost max speed as you leave, the area where you get in on the roller coaster. And you start going through darkness. It's twist and turn, and you're shot out into the light, right? And you do a few turns, and then the first thing that you encounter is this right here, and it's like click, 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 like it's a wood roller coaster, click, 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 and then wham, right?
Yeah, right. The sounds.
You get the gut drop, and then you take it up here, and you're whipping around.
Like even the sounds of this are American.
Yeah, man, it's great. And you got views of the Pacific Ocean. I love this roller coaster. I love Santa Cruz Beach and Boardwalk. Although, let's just say the demographic has changed drastically over the last.
Well, that's kind of what I wonder about America, because that really wasn't the situation for me in my Rip Van Winkle days.
No, and it wasn't I used to go to this park when I was in high school. We would either catch a bus over. We lived in San Jose. We lived in the Valley, and we'd go and we'd hang out. We surf and rent a surfboard, and we hit the boardwalk. So I have memories of Santa Cruz from being very young. And I remember taking my son there. He was about 4 years old. And I looked around, and again, I'm not saying this to be racially divisive. I looked around, and I would say that 80% of the people at the boardwalk were Mexican. I was blown away. I'm like, and it was like families, like 4, 5, 6 kids, you know.
It sounds like Carnival Cruise Line.
Well, the thing was, like, they were cool. Right? There was no like cutting in line or anything. Like I didn't have a problem with like any of the kind of social codes or anything. Right? Their kids seemed to be pretty well behaved. Like there wasn't like I didn't have any tension, or it was just a numbers game. I was astounded at the numbers.
Well, the problem with these parks now, and probably the reason they're closing them down, is back in the day, people went with their parents. Your parents would take you there. You know, you were supervised.
Well, these were Mexican families, so they were there with their parents.
Okay, but you know, I get the impression a lot of these parks are overwhelmed by a bunch of Utes. You know,
well, I think there are parks that are like that. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, that was just my experience. I was like, holy shit! I saw the demographic shift in real time, and it was mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah.
So, anyway, all right, that's a good choice. Did you go to the water slide parks with your son as well?
Oh, I went to one in Hawaii that I liked. I went to the one in Kansas City. You ever go out there?
No, we have the Schlitterbahn here.
The one in Kansas City is a good one. That's a good water park. Man, they're scattered around different places. I'd find them. We'd go. Eccentric characters. Evel Knievel.
Yep. I love the fact that America produces eccentric fucking people. And with Bobby Knievel, I don't know if he was an adrenaline junkie. You know,
hell yes.
Well, I think he was a fame junkie. And doing the jumps is what brought him fame. Right? He's a Leo, by the way. That's his sun sign. But Bobby Knievel is the eccentric motherfucker. Like, who does this shit?
See, Charlie says here in the comments, I just want to address this real quick. Who can afford $100 to stand in line for 4 hours? Well, it wasn't that way in the Rip Van Winkle days.
No, it wasn't that way.
You know, that's kind of unfortunate. But I'm only going from my experience as an American. That's all I have.
I think
really pre 2010.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing has been so commodified, and I would never step foot in any Disney theme park ever again. Just because of like what it's come to stand for. And I went to Disneyland when I was a young kid, right? Like I was around, I don't know, 6 years old first time I went to Disneyland.
I thought Disneyland was a little overrated.
So 1966, Disneyland hadn't been infected yet. But yeah, I mean, a little over. For me, there was only like a couple of rides there. The Matterhorn, they brought in Space Mountain and Pirates of the Caribbean. I thought everything else kind of sucked, actually. But, you know, as a kid, it's like Disneyland, going to Disneyland when you're a kid is like Christmas. But eccentric characters. You know, so Bobby Knievel's like along the same lines. Walt Disney's eccentric. You know, to have this vision that, you know, he's going to create this magical world of wonder and Epcot, like that's eccentric. And Walt Disney and Ray Kroc, who started McDonald's, were born in the same town in Illinois. And Ray Kroc is an eccentric motherfucker, right? Like he completely invents fast food. But when you get into his story, like he's one of these guys who's just looking for the right thing to sell. You know, he went into McDonald's selling milkshake mixers.
Yeah, the Netflix series covered that, right?
Yeah, and he used to listen to like self-help records, you know, like you're great, you can do anything if you set your mind to it, like shit like that. That's really eccentric. You know, and America is populated with very, very eccentric people. You might know this guy. He shows up at these NBA games And he's always dressed in a cowboy hat, and he's got, very loud leather kind of couture. He's got long hair. This guy's been going to NBA games for decades. He's always fucking there. He's really eccentric. Super.
Of course, there's also the famous kissing. What they call her? The kissing. The woman with the huge boobs.
Yeah,
running around the field, kiss the
right. She on the field and kiss baseball players.
Yeah, that type of thing.
America's got some eccentric motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you didn't have some of that, it would really, that just sort of adds to the whole experience.
It really, I think we really love eccentric people in a lot of ways until they become too popular. And then when eccentric people become too popular, it's almost like their eccentricity is almost weaponized against them. Howard Hughes was incredibly eccentric, to the point where
he was mentally ill.
Right, but he's an eccentric guy. Even like Trump is fucking eccentric. I don't want to go open range on Trump. All the guy does is eat fucking McDonald's and drink Diet Coke. Like, how much more eccentric can you get?
Really, in some ways, some of the eccentricity maybe needs to be toned down a little bit, and maybe.
Well, I'm just telling you, I'm not judging.
But it is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is, and there's certain likability about it.
Like even somebody like John Daly, that guy's eccentric.
Well, a lot of sports figures are.
They can be. If they're open to be Mark Fidrich, who played for the Tigers and had one amazing season, eccentric motherfucker. Talk to the baseball. I mean, when it works, we love shit like that.
Yeah.
Because I think we have this vicarious relationship with these eccentric characters, and they're doing things that a lot of people either don't have the gumption or are probably too invested in living a reasonable life to do, right? So there's a lot of projection that we will throw onto these people that live these lives or do these things. You scratch your head, it's like, why the fuck are you doing that? Or how did you get there? Or how did you become this person? And again, I think it's really uniquely American. Like, you can have kind of tweed eccentric people in England, but they're very different. Like Syd Barrett from Pink Floyd is very
English are really eccentric.
Very eccentric, but not in the same way. Right?
Yeah.
In America, being eccentric can also be loud. It's not just like Andy Warhol, fucking eccentric. He's not loud, but he's eccentric. So I love this about America. And I think in a lot of ways, we celebrate these people because, again, it gets back to this idea of you can be anybody who you want to be. You want to be eccentric. You want to be Evel Knievel. You want to break every fucking bone in your body. Go for it, man. Go do it. You want to build a rocket and jump it off Snake Canyon? Go ahead. Do it. But you're going to have to buy the property in order to do it. And that's what he did, right? He had to actually buy that property. He had to buy the access to the Snake River just to do, like, that's American.
Here's somebody puts up Liberace, nice Wisconsin boy.
He's an eccentric motherfucker.
Yeah, I actually watched him perform in Las Vegas. I can't believe it.
He put on a good show, Russ. Come on.
Yeah, I guess so. He was kind of a little strange for me, though. At that time, I was just really super straight guy.
Lee.
Yeah.
Oh, Russ.
Russ, loosen up a little bit. I think that was the idea of dragging me in there to see Liberace.
people, Vegas, man, is a magnet for eccentric. Wayne Newton, that guy's fucking eccentric. And he's still around. Wayne Newton is still around.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he is. He still performs in Vegas.
What, he's like 100 years old?
Wayne's probably pushing late 80s. There is this. What was his name? Oh shit. So Liberace. Oh man, I gotta find this guy now. Hold on. It'll come back. Let's go on to your next one. I don't want to spend a bunch of time, but it'll come. I want to come back to this. Okay, let's go to your next one. So you're number 7. Okay, so Russ, I made this one especially for you.
Seattle pilots.
You would be amazed at how few pictures there are of the Seattle Pilots.
So then the middle picture, that's the old Six Stadium. That's no longer around. That was like a ridiculous stadium.
Isn't that where the Rainiers played?
Yeah, and they just inherited that, and they didn't last very long there. It's just really poorly organized team. They had to make it up to Seattle by eventually letting them have the Mariners. And the Mariners were a serious organization, got the stadium built there and brought in some great players and had some good years.
Speaking of eccentric, Danny Kaye was one of the early co-owners of the Mariners.
Yeah, that's right. God, you're good.
That guy's fucking eccentric.
You're really good at some of this trivia stuff. Amazing.
Yeah,
we got to get you entered into some contests.
Russ, you have no idea how many trivia contests I have
dominated.
Yes. So let's talk about baseball. It is a uniquely American sport, although some people will say that it's based on rounders, which is kind of a Native American thing, but that's fine. And you have two people who are connected to the start of baseball. One is Abner Doubleday, who fought in the Civil War, by the way, and was a theosophist. And then you have Alexander Cartwright, and both of whom sort of vie for this idea that they started baseball. But there's something about baseball in America. It's very unique. And the other countries that have picked up on baseball, like Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Central, South America, like they did it because it's very American and there's something just absolutely unique about baseball that other sports don't have.
Yeah, one of the things about baseball, the lower levels, now you got these big mega stadiums. They're like, I went to the one in Toronto. It was just too big. You're just up there in the rafters. But at the lower levels, like Little League baseball or community baseball or college baseball, is very contained. You know, they're sort of smaller stadiums that are very intimate. In some ways, I kind of like minor league baseball a lot. I used to watch the Tacoma. I forget what they are. You probably know the Tacoma.
Well, they've gone by a couple different names. They're the Tacoma Tigers for a while, and then the A's came in, and they were the farm team for the A's. And I think they were the farm team.
When I was watching them, they were farm. I think farm team for the Mariners because
right. So yeah, and I believe they were not called the Tacoma Mariners though.
No,
their name was the Tacoma Tigers.
Okay, I can't forget. But it's kind of it's just a very neat pastime because there are small stadiums, bleachers, very cool American feel to them. You know, you can go get a hot dog close. The big stadiums, they're pretty cool too, but some of them are just too big and a little too impersonal, too far away from the players.
Yeah, I was at Ewing Kauffman for the first time. Beautiful stadium. And they opened that, 1970? So the Royals and the Pilots came into the league at the same time. They were both expansion teams.
Right.
And so that Ewing Kauffman Stadium made this, it's beautiful. To this day, they've got waterfalls. They have an amazing Jumbotron. It's like great family atmosphere, environment. Loved it.
And not really overly big.
No, it's not a huge stadium. And the thing I loved about that experience is that the Royals are kind of a 500 team, but the people turned out as if they were contending for the pennant. Right? I'm like, wow, this is a really good turnout for a team that's kind of middle of the road. Now, it was Alex Gordon induction into the Royals Hall of Fame night, so maybe that brought a few people out. Bo Jackson was there. I saw Bo Jackson that night.
Well, Safeco Field in Seattle is a really very well designed stadium. It's big, but it's really well designed. You know, you got the trains going by in the background. You can hear the trains running through.
Yeah.
The outer bleachers are kind of nicely situated. I've always liked that stadium. I thought they did a good job.
The thing I love about baseball, not so much anymore, but players like in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even up into the 80s, they had nicknames. You know, they had like this guy, Bill Skowron. It was Moose Skowron, right? Dave Parker just passed away last week, and he's a more modern era player. His nickname was the Cobra. Yeah, and I love the nickname stuff, like Mark the Bird Fidrich. He looked like Big Bird from Sesame Street. Randy Johnson, the big unit, right? Guy's 6'10".
Yeah, the big unit.
The big unit. Reggie Jackson, Mr. October. Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle. I mean, I could go on and on. Willie Mays, the Say Hey Kid. Like, there is something mythical about baseball players and their names.
Sounds like the names are organic. I mean, they're
organic.
They don't seem like they're like promotional.
No, they just kind of the weirdest one, but it kind of fits, was Ted Williams, the Splendid Splinter, right? Because he was thin, right? He was really thin, and he can swing it back.
Ken Griffey Jr., the kid, right? Like there's just something about like you don't really get a lot of that. You get some of it in football, but even that's going away. Like you would have like Ted the Stork Hendricks or Teddy the Snake Stabler. Like there was a period of time where players had these nicknames, and they were brands. And players don't really have nicknames anymore. They want their own names to be the brand, right? Like LeBron wants to be LeBron. Nobody would call LeBron, I don't know, the freight train. The thing is, more and more we keep talking about the heyday of America.
Well, it's true. This is definitely a look in the rearview mirror, for sure. By the way, Tommy Harper should never have played third base on this team. He was an outfielder. But that's how bereft of talent there were. All right, we got a big shout out for baseball. I'm down with that. I love baseball. I've coached my son's teams. I've had great experiences around it with families. It's a very American thing. All right, so let's see. My number 7.
We got a lot of thumbs up for hot dogs in the comments. Okay.
I do like a good hot dog.
Good mustards.
Yeah, there you go. All right, here's my number 7.
Pioneers.
I love this about Americans, where we have this pioneering spirit. This is a young homesteading family, right? And you're seeing a lot more of this happen.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Dear friend of the show, shout out to Lee Guest. Lee, I've had on my show a number of times. She's a musician. Her big hit was Fuck Your Feelings. Great song, great performer. Lee, just immensely talented. And she was living this life of, trying to crack through the singer-songwriter world. And at a certain point, she does this 180 and she moves to Montana. She winds up hooking up with somebody who'd been in a relationship in her past. They get married. They have some land in Montana. They have a trailer that they're living in. She now has 3 kids. They've got a big garden. They've got no screens, right? If there's internet, it's only for the adults. They have to, she had to like shoot a bear, right? Because there was a bear on the property, and their kids are going to grow up in this kind of back to the land pioneer spirit. And there are a lot of people, like YouTube is filled with homesteading channels, and it's not an easy life, right? But this is part of the American story, like the pioneering of the plains.
Yeah,
everything that we talked about.
I'm not really that tuned into this, so thanks for educating me on it.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's a gal who I'm talking with, in terms of like product line, lives in the Ozarks in Arkansas, grows all of her own herbs, processes them, brings them into like all these different products. Like that's the pioneering spirit. You're not going to really find this in other countries for all the reasons that we talked about: available land, climate, and there's this sense here that we can do things, right? It's the same sense that Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak had in the garage. It's a different
mentality.
It's a different application, but it's very similar in some ways, right? We can do this. We can innovate, or we can go to the land, and we can kind of reinvent it, and we can find.
My grandfather was really a pioneer. My mom's dad.
Yeah,
he was born in La Grande, Oregon, and actually it was actually his dad that was the pioneer. And he was a German guy that came out from Iowa in the 1880s and found really one of the founders of the town of La Grande, Oregon. And
the Germans play a big role in this pioneer story, because they start showing up here around 1849, 1850. Germany's losing its fucking mind.
He wasn't really the pure pioneer, but once the railroads showed up, then he was in there. Like he was like a first mover on the railroads into northeastern Oregon.
Oh, wow.
And build a pretty big business, hardware business.
The Germans have contributed an immense amount to our country and our culture. Like they basically built the hill country here.
Well, the Germans are also pioneers in Europe. There's a real tradition of that as well. And unfortunately, they got run out of a lot of these places.
Yeah.
Including, I was talking to somebody in the Czech Republic. I said, well, what do you think about the Germans being run out of Sudetenland? And she says, well, it was kind of necessary, but really unfortunate because those were pretty good people.
Hardworking.
But they couldn't have them around because the politics, apparently.
That'll always be a thorn in the side. Okay, what do you got next for us, Russ? Let's see. I think I know where you're going with this one. Let me see. All right, yeah. So this is kind of similar to what I had earlier, and
yeah,
so there you go.
I already talked about this, so yeah, we can move on to yours.
Yeah,
I talked about this quite a bit, and it's
true. I got to tell you, man, AI is fucking dangerous. Like I just punched this into AI. None of these people exist.
Really?
Yeah. None of these people exist.
Fictional people.
I just wanted a certain scene, and that's what I was able to do. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and that's part of the American spirit, right? So, what's my number?
So we got a dupla there, almost the same as what you had. So.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, all right. This one is cultural and musical. rockabilly.
Yeah, innovation.
Do you see rockabilly? See that?
Yeah.
That's Eddie Cochran, by the way. Ain't no cure for the summertime blues. Come on. I love fucking rockabilly.
Really?
I love it. Because it is distinctly American.
I like European orchestra music.
God bless you.
So I've been sort of assimilated a little bit into
You have been assimilated. Now I love this shit, right? Because it's rebellious. A lot of these guys come from places in Texas,
right,
Louisiana,
Memphis.
Arkansas, right, some Memphis, and so you're getting like sort of a bit of the rebel yell with rockabilly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little country, but it's plugged in, it's amplified, and it's stylish. Great fucking haircuts, and it's outlaw music. Like rockabilly is outlaw music, and for me, it's just distinctly.
I've gone kind of international in a lot of my music. For instance, I don't know if have you ever heard the Brazilian country music? It's called Sertão music.
I've heard some of it. I've heard some
like Victor and Leo. Play some Victor and Leo sometime. Those guys can really belt it out. And when they were performing, you can get some videos on YouTube in their prime.
Yeah,
they didn't miss a beat. In live performances, their drum rolls were perfect. Their guitar was perfect. Their singing renditions were perfect and beautiful Portuguese. So
listen, I love Brazilian music. I'm a big fan of Tropicalismo. I've seen a ton of Brazilian artists live. I love a lot of international music.
Yeah,
I do. Like
we're talking about America, so that's okay.
I love music from the Middle East. I love gamelan music. Microtonal scales. I was a world music aficionado for a while, so I'm very familiar with music.
Somebody writes down, "Wow, Leo was handsome." Yeah, he was.
Who's that?
I talked about Victor and Leo. And
Victor and Leo.
Hanging Laundry says, "Wow, Leo was handsome." So he knows Victor and Leo. Okay, cool.
All right, enough Victor and Leo. We're talking about fucking America here. Okay?
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Let's talk about fucking Elvis Presley and handsome. All right. Is Leo as handsome as Elvis? Is Leo as handsome as Elvis?
Veer off track because
I don't think so. So this is a rockabilly story. There's this guy, and Jerry Lee Lewis was fucking crazy. Like crazy. And there's this guy who used to hang out with Jerry Lee, and they were buddies. And he tells the story that one time he and Jerry Lee were at this crosswalk. I think it might have been in Vegas. And they're at this crosswalk. Jerry Lee's in the car at this stoplight. And Liberace is walking across the street, like in front of them. And Jerry Lee Lewis thought about running him over. He was serious.
Really kind of a criminal, huh?
Oh, Jerry Lee Lewis, he was insane. They would have these parties. They did speed and all this shit. And they would have these parties. And if you were at one of his parties, you weren't allowed to leave. And he had this like studio office space he had set up. I think it wasn't in Vegas. I think it might have been in maybe Memphis.
That sounds like the Eddie Murphy, Rick James skit.
This is a total true story. So right next to where he had his like office and studio space, and these people are like on a 2 or 3 day fucking bender at this party. Right next door was an orthodontist office where they had all of these sets of like false teeth, right? Like they were all like kind of put in these small little shelves. And it was on the other side of Jerry Lee Lewis's like office studio space. So people were threatening to leave. True story. Jerry Lee Lewis gets out a fucking machine gun and starts spraying bullets into the wall that's adjacent to the orthodontist. So all those bullets are going into sets of dentures. They'll get destroyed by this stray bullet. He was insane. So when he thought about running Liberace over, he was serious. It was like, hey, should I run him over? No, he was like talking him off the ledge. Anyway, there you go. There's Rockabilly.
Yeah, it was a terrorist.
All right.
Rick James. That reminds me of the Rick James, Eddie Murphy skits. You ever see those?
Of course. Charlie Murphy.
Yeah.
That cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Right.
All right. This is another one of Russ's American loves.
Yeah. Yeah. Now they have microbrews here, but I'm not that impressed because they really, particularly in the Pacific Northwest when I was there, they really had a lot of them and very good. And they had some festivals down by the river in Portland during the summer where you could just go down and sample. In fact, I did go down and sample way too many because they're strong. You got to really watch it. But if you want to sample them, drink them, there's dozens of delicious microbrew beers, and then you learn about them. You find out where you can, purchase them. Sometimes they kind of show up as kind of like specialty taverns.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's still going on in Portland or not.
Oh, I'm sure, Russ.
You think so?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh,
Nothing lost there. California is kind of the same way, isn't it?
Yeah. So one of the first microbrews was called Anchor Steam, and I drank many an Anchor Steam in my day. So, but you have that Pilsner Urquell stuff over there, don't you?
It's not that good.
All right,
Overrated.
This is my number 9. The California coast. I love this. I love this about America. The California coast in particular. There's the West Coast. I got to say, some Oregon beaches are pretty nice. Washington beaches, no. But California.
Washington Beach is just a little too cold up there.
Too cold. But you get a wide range of California coast. Now, this is Big Sur. And this is one of my favorite places on earth. I love Big Sur. And it's definitely, you might find some interesting beaches and coastal landscape in places like Italy, Spain, maybe Greece. So I don't think, the California coast has the patent on this. But I love it.
It probably does because it's a big ocean. You got Europe is it's a sea, the Mediterranean Sea. And the villages and the towns can be very picturesque, but this is a little more rugged. You got the big ocean.
Yeah, and I've spent many hours on beaches all the way up the coast.
Yeah, I've been through there. I know what you're talking about, but I don't have a lot of familiarity with it.
Yeah, and this is one of the things I actually do miss about California. Is just being within an hour and a half drive of something like this. And beaches in Texas. No, they don't cut it. All right, let's get into your number 9. As we round up our celebration of America.
You can hear the fireworks going on.
Oh, this is number 10 for you. This is number 10 for you. This is the end of your list, Russ. There you go.
Yep, favorite holiday.
Kaboom! 4th of July, fireworks.
Apple pie and the 4th of July.
Absolutely. This is where we get to celebrate some of the things that we're talking about, right? In our own way. And
so always like to
the thing about this country is that it's deeply flawed. And I think that it has the needle's starting to go into the red here, right? Like I really feel like it is. But at the same time, it still has the bones of the country that we knew and loved. The bones are still there. It's just a matter of, I think, remembering them and
some of the new,
maintaining them.
hopefully some of the new people that have arrived would learn to love this stuff the way we do.
They'll have a different relationship with it, Russ. It won't be the same.
I know.
Yeah. All right, this is my number 10. Right there.
Yeah, she's
now,
cute.
hey, listen. There are beautiful, soulful women from other countries of the world. I will not dispute that at all. And they have their own unique, story. So, but I'm just saying, American women, often kind of tarnished, and maybe we're going to see a bit of a renaissance here with American women and kind of an infusion of more conservative values. I think that is happening, by the way. But just got to tip my cap to all the American women out there.
All right. Yay.
There you go. Because my mother was an American woman, and
That's right. My mom was too.
Yeah. So there you go. All right. Well, Russ, this has been really fun and gave us something positive to talk about. Let's see what we have here. Any other people? Any other comments here?
Well, the West Coast girls are hip, and I really dig those styles they wear.
Joan brings up American Woman, which was written by a Canadian. And that was, of course, the Guess Who. Yeah. You guys got anything that you want to chime in here with about what you love before we sign off? Anything else? I think the beach thing went over big. People relate to the beach thing. Yeah, California.
Yeah, that's more up your alley. I just grew up in the middle of the country, so I didn't have that. But
the California coast, man, is special. Really, really special.
Hawaii water is amazing. I'll tell you.
Oh, for sure.
Water in Hawaii is fantastic.
Yeah. Lenny Kravitz did the remake of American Woman. That's right. Beach Boys are the greatest up until about 1968, and then it becomes
Then Charles Manson moved in.
Yeah, they become their own tribute band after 1968, 69. All right, Russ. This has been a lot of fun, man.
Everybody enjoy the 4th of July fireworks. Take a nap because it's still nap time where you guys are. It's probably hot. Get rested so that you can enjoy the fireworks.
Yeah, I have to go out and see what other. I just keep hearing sirens going off here.
Okay, stay hydrated. Don't run yourself into the ground today, everybody. That's coming from an old man.
Guess who? The Guess Who was Canadian. Wait, American band. American band is Grand Funk Railroad. That's right. Yeah, Grand Funk. All right. Thanks, Russ. You take care. We'll see you. We'll see you in a month, and I'm sure we'll have plenty to tear apart and get a little pissed about. There's no shortage of that these days. But for one day, we decided to share our love with you people. Take care, Mr. Winter. We'll see you in a month.
Bye-bye.
All right. There you go. That is Mr. Russ Winter. And our kind of love letter to America here on the 4th of July, a.k.a. Independence Day. I'll be back on Sunday night with Sunday Night Astro Live. And you guys enjoy your life. Affirm who you are wherever you are. You don't just have to be an American. We're all part of the human family. And the things that are written about in the Declaration of Independence, right? They're there for each and every one of us. We just kind of put it into motion. And we have these God-given inalienable rights that were decreed upon us. Not politicians, not corporations, not any other authority, but the sole creator of the cosmos itself. Remember that. We all share that together. Let's celebrate it and let's defend it. All right. Take good care. Treat each other well. Love you all. Bye for now.